Welcome back in, guys. We are not dead. We are live. It's been about 2-3 weeks by plan, vacation and just some time off, man. We know football season's coming. We're going to be pumping content out pretty daily when it starts. We're sitting here. Hall of Fame game is on for the NFL. And as we know, Mountaineers fall camp, day 2 concluded today. And that is obviously the topic of today. And let's jump right in, Noah. Actually, before we do, friendly reminder of the giveaway, 500 subscribers, raffling off 3 items. If you know, you know. If you don't, subscribe, get in, make sure. Let's get right into it, man. So the theme of day 2 of fall camp, Rich Rod comes up to the podium today, and let's just say it how it is, Noah. He was on fire, man. I mean, this guy was giving out free quotes left and right for, the burner accounts for West Virginia to use. It was pretty awesome. But in another way, it was not very awesome. He was pretty fired up. And some of the direct quotes are definitely eye-catching, but you have to remember the style of coach that he is, the way that he speaks. He's lighting a fire under these guys, man. And I think in previous years, we didn't have this in the Neil Brown era, where maybe a mediocre practice as far as, not meeting the standards of effort and mentality would just kind of be blown off, right? Like, it's all right. We're learning. Everybody's learning the system. It's okay. Participation trophy kind of attitude, right? This is not the case anymore, man. As you can tell, Rich Rod, this is big boy football, and he demands a certain effort, a certain style every single day, whether it's practice game, no matter what, man. And a direct quote, Noah, I want your take on this. He says, he sees guys not giving good effort. There's still 4,000 kids in the portal, right? I got a whole recruiting staff. They're still looking. We're still looking. We ain't got a game for a few weeks. I got a spot or 2 open. I'm just saying, paired along with, he came out and said today only 2 running backs made it through practice without tapping out today due to conditioning, cramps, just certain stuff like that. He says, you think I'm not going to talk to my recruiting staff? What are your kind of thoughts, opinions from day 1 where it looked all happy, joyful, to day 2 and how he kind of expressed himself today?
I think it's kind of exactly what you were hitting on. Motivation. Motivating these guys. Let's be honest. When he, recruited these guys, brought them in here, they had something that he saw that, he had saw potential in these guys. What he's trying to do is light a fire under their asses and let them know this shit isn't sweet around here, Gage. This is serious. This is Mountaineer football. You're representing West Virginia. You're representing the state. You're representing the hardworking people of the state, blue collar guys. They go out and give it their all every day of the week, to provide for their families. You can come out here on this football field and you can provide for this state, on Saturday. So that's what he's trying to set the tone early. Let them know, hey, if you're not ready to come and give everything you have, I've got 4,000 guys. Kind of like the good part of the portal is like, look, if you guys aren't, grateful or want to come out here and give all your effort, I can go find 4,000 guys that are probably very, very desperate right now and get them in here and get them to run this, 100-yard sprint as hard as they can 15 times because he can do it.
Yeah, well said. You kind of got me ready to run through a wall right now, the way you just described that. But yeah, man, you're absolutely right. And like I said, I think it comes down to, I just, and once again, I wasn't keeping up with him at Jacksonville State the way that, I don't think anybody, if somebody told you they were keeping up with him at Jacksonville State like they do West Virginia, they're probably lying. It's just kind of human nature. You follow who you follow. But I don't remember ever seeing this sort of fire from him. You know what I mean? You can just feel how passionate he is about being back and coaching this team and wanting to deliver for this fan base, man. It's just, that's what has me so fired up for the season, is just seeing the way that he is conducting not only himself, and that also, credit and props to him. I think today and also yesterday was the first time we've heard a press conference where he didn't give his standard, I'm a better coach now than I was 20, that whole spiel. So double thumbs up to him for that. But I can just sense it, man. He's fired up, and he's got this standard that he needs the players to live up to deliver for this upcoming season. And he knows that. And like I said, it's day 2, man. I don't want to say a ton of time to kind of whip it in shape and get ready for the season, but day by day, I think by obviously week 1, Robert Morris, man, they will be ready to go without a doubt. So no, let's transition to what will be the glooming, just huge topic all the way up until kickoff at Robert Morris. And Richard kind of discussed it a little bit. You and I have a couple opinions, takes on it. The quarterback room, the quarterback situation. I'll start with this. we as fans, right? We as fans can only evaluate quarterbacks and make a statement of, well, I think Nico should start or I think Henderson should start on one basis, game film, right? We do not have access to the tape of practices that Rich Rod ultimately goes back after practice and spends countless hours watching every single play on both the offense and defensive side of the ball. That is what's going to determine who starts. And when I say start, this is what I mean. We are not going to have a solidified QB1, in my opinion, until week 3 versus Pitt. That will be the game where I think he kind of clarifies, okay, we're going with one guy the entire game, whether it's Henderson, whether it's Nico. Both of those guys are going to get run in the Robert Morris game. Both of them are going to get run in the Ohio game. But ultimately, it comes down to what Rich Rod is watching on this tape at practice. We as fans, it doesn't matter what we think of what Henderson did in game at Texas A&M. Yes, he had an amazing game versus like 16th ranked LSU, but it doesn't matter because A, it's not Rich Rod's scheme. B, it's not Rich Rod. He talks about evaluating talent, right? It's different coach to coach the way they evaluate quarterbacks. What's kind of your overall take on the way that not only Rich Rod is approaching this quarterback situation, but the media? The media is obviously going to press and press and press. It's football nature. Hey, we want to know the quarterback. We want to know the quarterback, yada, yada. What do you think? Because I'm kind of like, I'm tired of hearing it. And I have full faith in Rich Rod making a decision by week 3, in my opinion, that we're going to be in good hands.
Yeah, I think that's something right there where I was going to hit on is that we have to trust Rich Rod to know what guy is going to run his system the best, Gage. I think it breaks down, they're going to be able to watch practice. They're going to be able to see what play this guy can run better, what situation this guy runs better. There's going to be a whole bunch of apples and oranges in this thing because let's be honest, we have 2 guys in this room that are very, very athletic. We're very highly, recruited out of the high school level. They haven't had a full sample size yet in Power 4 football, so we can't really say, this is a definite starter or this is a definite starter. It's going to go day by day. And like you said, the first week, the second week, we have some games that aren't as, they're important, right? Because every game's important, especially in the playoff era. But in the sense of if we can get through those 2 games, then that third game, we have to be at our A game. The situation is, and Rich Rod kind of hit on this in his first presser, it's hard to tell what you have at the quarterback position if you aren't going 100% full live football. So, and even harder to do that in camp, in my opinion, because you don't want to get these guys banged up. And it's not just the quarterback you're risking getting banged up. You also have a defender on the other side of the football trying to make these tackles. So if you're going 100% contact, you're always risking that injury to one of your players, whether it be offensive or defensively. So those 2 games, that's when you're going to see that Pat White come on. Maybe it's Williams, maybe it's Henderson, maybe it's Markill. We don't know, but that's when you're going to get that full sample size to say, okay, during game speed, this guy stands out because this is what he can do with the football, or this is the decision he consistently makes. Until you see each of these guys in full speed, full game speed, it's going to be hard to tell, and especially very, very hard to let one of these guys say, okay, you're going to have to take the backseat to this guy.
Yeah, and he reinforced it, game speed and live speed for quarterbacks in this fall camp and in the practices leading up to the game, which I like. We obviously know the NFL obviously trickles down to all levels. And when guys kind of, I don't want to say have a relaxed approach to practice, but you definitely don't, if you have a clear, I'll put it this way, right? We don't have the benefit of an SEC caliber quarterback top teams, right? Garrett Nussmeier is going to play for LSU. Arch Manning is going to play for Texas. Lenore Seller is going to play for South Carolina. There's no debate, right? So it's like you can protect them a little bit in practice. That's fine. We have done all the evaluating we can. Those guys are going to play for us. That's not the case for West Virginia, right? We have to see these guys live. I'm saying we. Rich Rod has to see these guys at game speed, live speed, to be able to determine and make a decision for what's best for this football team. I think you said it best. So, yeah, I think, obviously people have their takes of, well, Nico should start, or, well, Henderson's coming from A&M and has SEC, experience. He should play. And it's like, don't make this a competition of verses, right? Rich Rod has spoken openly about playing both quarterbacks At any point, it doesn't matter. Last year at Jacksonville State, they went down to Coastal Carolina and played week 1. Logan Smothers, I believe his name was their starting quarterback all throughout camp. I don't think he ever said it, but it was like, he's the clear-cut starter. Sure enough, they roll out the offense. There he is. I think at halftime, they were down by like 20, 30. I can't even remember. We bet on Jacksonville State. Guess what? In comes Tyler Huff. What did Tyler Huff do? Absolutely blew it up in the second half. And I'm pretty sure played the entire rest of the season. So when he finds that hot hand, and he talked about it, when he finds the hot hand, man, it's that guy's job to lose. And I think that's the way it's going to be. One of them is going to catch the hot hand and separate themselves. And it's one of those things, man. And iron sharpens iron. It's definitely not a bad thing to have a competition like that. Both guys got to be sharpened on their A game every single day. And we'll talk about a couple of the other quarterbacks later on in this video. Max Brown and 2 other names. But Noah, let's get to our next segment here. Let's talk a little bit about the waiver issues that the Mountaineers, a couple Mountaineer players are facing, but not going to bore you with the legal NCAA, all that stuff. So Jimori Robinson, Jeff Weimer, Ty Edwards, and Justin Harrington are all facing the dilemma. NCAA just it's pathetic. They got to get some of their shit together, man. It's not only West Virginia. It's players across the country. It's not right to these kids. It's just, how are we this close to the season and we're still dealing with some of these issues? These guys can't practice with the team. They have to do stuff on their own. And before I give my take, I'm fully confident that all 4 of these guys are doing enough on their own to, when the stuff gets resolved, they can step right in and not miss a beat. But the human nature and just kind of natural cause, it's just not the case. You have to be a part of these team practices, these live rep practices, to be able to be at that game speed. And I think for guys more so like Jimori Robinson and Justin Harrington on that defensive side of the ball, it's like, when you finally get back to the live reps, as good as those guys are, you're just going to feel a step behind because you've only been able to do stuff by yourself. I kind of compare it to the NFL players who some hold out for contract issues. We're seeing it now with Trey Hendrickson, missing training camp for all, different reasons, stuff like that. Those guys tend to have slower starts to the season. It's not, it's not a coincidence. They're not getting the practice reps needed to get up to game speed. So, what do you think? Do you think that this is going to hurt, not only these guys? I feel bad for the guys, but I mean, kind of what's your overall take on it? Because it's kind of pathetic in my opinion.
I think kind of what you're getting at there is, yeah, you can do as much, one work on yourself.
Ladder drills,
carrying the ball. Swim moves, that type of stuff. Like, you can work on the fundamentals of the game. You can work on those things, but it's a completely different thing. Like, syncing up with your teammates, like knowing that, hey, when this happens, my guy behind me is going to roll this way, so I'm going to do this. That's the things that you miss out when you're not able to play on these 11-on-11, live situation drills. Running back like Ty Edwards, when you're looking at him, just the simple, like, getting handoffs from Nico, from Jalen, from these guys that are, in the quarterback situation. This is a big time where you kind of sync up and you get on the same level as these guys. And because, yes, all quarterbacks are taught to hand the ball off the same way, but it's a different way from each, it's kind of a little bit different how this guy might do it from this guy. And as far as defensive end, you're rushing off the edge. How deep am I getting? If this guy comes from this side, where am I staying to contain this edge? So it's just little things like that, like you said, in training camp, when you're having holdouts in the NFL, those are little things that you see come game time. Like, well, maybe if he would have been there a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier, would he have made that play? And that's kind of the question you always have in those situations.
Yeah, and think of it from the standpoint for Jeff Weimer, right? I mean, that's a receiver. Your whole job is to catch the ball from the quarterback, and a big job. And Rich, right, you got to be able to run block a little bit. But when you're not able to get the reps of catching the ball from a room where there's a quarterback competition, it's like you're at a disadvantage, and it's not even his fault. That's the thing, right? It's like NFL guys do it to themselves. They shoot themselves in the foot. I get it. It's a business. There's money involved. You got to get your money. But dang, man, it just sucks. Hopefully it gets resolved soon. It doesn't carry on to be something bigger than what it already is. It sucks, like I said, that kind of just a small take on it. But let's go to what some people might find boring, but true kind of football fans will appreciate this segment. Let's talk some trenches. Let's talk offensive line, defensive line, one of the bigger question marks coming into this upcoming season. A lot of fresh faces, lot of moving parts, things like that. I think outside of the quarterback situation, this is the second biggest thing to monitor in this fall camp. And a couple things to kind of break it up into. One, he already kind of discussed the topic of he likes his offensive linemen not only being able to play guard, but tackle and vice versa. If you're a tackle, be able to kick into guard, things like that. I think that I really think that finding the perfect combination of 5 offensive linemen is going to be harder than choosing a quarterback for Rich Rodriguez because of this specific scheme that he runs and the way that he needs these guys to be able to move, be agile, just everything about his offense, right? I think it's really going to be tough on these offensive linemen to not only find where they fit from a scheme standpoint, but position wise, because how not, I don't want to say odd, but it's like not a lot of coaches openly talk about wanting their offensive linemen to be able to play. Hey, you're a left guard, I want you to try right tackle today, or you're a right tackle, I want you to try left guard, things like that. I just found that pretty interesting. What do you think about like the offensive line standpoint of the ball before we flip to defense?
I think that's what it is, Gage. I mean, trying to find the right balance between, athleticism on that front line. Obviously, you want your tackles to be big, kind of, real strong, upper body with quick feet, trying to slide step to the outside to protect your passer. But it's a little bit different in Rich Rod's offense because you're trying to, kind of create gaps with movement up front. You're trying to keep defenders out of holes in a situation of, okay, if we can extend this guy here and seal this off, here comes a big hole right through here. So when you're looking at the situation of a guy coming in from right tackle to left guard or left guard to right guard, they're all different situations in the sense that, for one, the tempo that he's going to play at compared to other colleges they've played at, because these are all new guys. I think we might have 1 or 2 returning guys up front, but haven't played many snaps. It's just a completely different scheme. So outside of just a different whole, run blocking scheme, you also have to deal with the tempo that they're going to get back on the line. So these guys have to be, pretty athletic, pretty good, cardio, in good cardio shape, because this is a completely different type of football. And this is kind of what, when you look back at college football, this is the kind of offense that kind of separated what college football and NFL football used to be, because this kind of works with a little bit of a smaller line, in my opinion, because you have more athletic guys that are able to get out, pulling schemes, zone block, getting things open, a lot of room for running backs, essentially, and guys that are running football.
Yeah, and just one question for you. Curious what you think. Do you think that a lot of these offensive linemen are kind of struggling going from, especially the transfer guys? Like, this is not a scheme where I feel like, in a way, specifically SEC football. I know I seem like a SEC glazer right now talking about them a lot in this video, but a lot of the systems are somewhat the same, right? It's like it's very pass heavy, a lot of shotgun, things like that. The coming into this system has to be a bit of like a culture shock, right? Not in a football like X's and O's ways, but like you said, the pace of play, just the physicality that he wants to be able to run the ball. I just feel like as offensive linemen, it's like, hey, this is kind of different. I've never really been in a system quite like this, but in a way, it's like I like this, right? We probably feel really involved with as many times as they run the ball. I can see some offensive linemen really appreciating his system and be like, hey, like this is the way that I want to play. Like smash mouth football, we're going to beat you from the trenches. We're just more physical than you.
I think that's the thing that's different between, what Rich Rod style of football is and maybe these SEC guys. SEC, you believe that your guy lining up at offensive guard or offensive tackle is better than the guy across from him, right?
You don't need to scheme. You don't need to
scheme it. You just block it, hat on hat. This guy can move this guy out. We might have a lead blocker, whether it be, a tight end coming across in motion, something like that. Rich Rod kind of schemes that where he's moving guys around, opening holes with just linemen, whether it be a guy pulling through a hole or this guy, wedging on this side and this guy kicking out. He schemes it a lot different than a lot of these SEC football guys because there's more beef up front in the SEC and the Big Ten, and that's the difference between those two caliber of football and what Big 12 and the ACC is.
Yeah, absolutely. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, not too much to talk about. I just kind of wanted to talk about how Jimori Robinson's obviously missing some time due to the waiver stuff. We know defensive line, there's, I don't want to say holes, but some question marks as far as who's stepping up, things like that. Um, we know from the defensive side of the ball, everything once again starts at your defensive line. Do you kind of have any concerns with physicality up front on the defensive side of the ball, especially with Jimori Robinson missing time? Or is this something where you think Zach Alley has the right pieces and the right scheme to kind of maybe cover up some lack of talent in terms of, like, I don't say lack of talent, I hate saying that, but just in a way of skill, right? We know that we're going to face some offensive lines that are just going to be better than our defensive lines, but at times, scheme can benefit in this alley system, the way that we're sending pressure both off the edge, but sometimes up the middle with our linebacking and safeties, wherever the hell he wants to bring pressure from. Do you think that the way that his scheme is going to be set up, it can kind of take some relief off of maybe a lackluster defensive line?
My belief in Zach Alley is just like Zach Alley for president. That's my belief in him right now, and it might go back as far as I did watch him in Jacksonville State, because I thought it was very interesting that he was a young guy getting a chance to have that lead coordinator role. So watching him there, then watching him go to Oklahoma, and kind of it kind of spoke on his ego that he was willing to take that after having a lead, a head coordinator spot, go back to co-defensive coordinator under Venables. So Zach Alley, I am very, very excited for him. And I think you hit it on the head there, Gage, when you said his scheme is going to be able to cover up a lot of things. And I'm not going to sit here and say that his scheme is going to be better than anything we've ever saw, right? But the difference is his scheme is going to be foreign to a lot of offensive coordinators in the Big 12. Iowa State is a little bit similar with that three-back safety look, but the exotic pressures he's going to bring, the stunts that's gonna be ran up front, because we might have a little bit of a smaller defensive line in some situations. Zach Alley is very, very interesting. And actually, I think Zach Alley, as far as we want to talk into the offense, and that's going to be the most exciting of the football. He's the most intriguing part of West Virginia football this year, because I think he has the ability to really elevate this team from maybe a 7-5 team, 8-4 team, to that 10-win team, because of his defense can, really, really cause some issues. I know Rich Rod will be able to have his offense ready to roll. So Zach Alley's kind of like this key piece to me that if he gets things right, West Virginia is going to be a very, very sound football team this year.
And that's always a recipe for success in the football world. When you can run the ball at will and rely on a really good defense, it's a really good recipe for success.
BYU last year.
Absolutely. I think you said it best. And I think that's something to consider. A lot of new faces, as we all know. That's why it's so important for these guys to buy into the schematics of this team and the defense and the offense and the way that Rich Rod and Zach Alley want to run both of these units. Because, like you said, at times we're not going to be better in terms of player for player. We're going to play teams like Arizona State, BYU, Baylor. We don't play Baylor this year, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we're not going to be as good on paper, but because everybody's bought into the scheme on both sides of the ball, we're going to be able to win games. What were you going to say?
No, just exactly what you're saying. Like, there are going to be teams that just line up better than us, that are bigger up front or have this and that. But that's where that hard edge mentality, the West Virginia nature in these guys has to pour out. That we're always the underdog, and every time when you come up to bat, you have to be ready to swing. You have to be ready to hit it over the fence, Gage. And that's what these guys have to buy into early, right? So then later it can be used often.
Absolutely, man. So let's kind of wrap things up before our question of the day with this. Give me one player that you are expecting to take a big jump in this fall practice, fall camp setting to maybe propel themselves to some playing time that a lot of people were like, who's this guy? You know what I mean? Like somebody that's kind of maybe down the depth chart a little bit or third string, something like that, that could maybe make some noise and catch Rich Rod or Zach Alley's eye and say, hey, we need to get this guy on the field, a lot more than what he is right now.
Gage, one guy comes to mind. I'm going to be honest with you. A couple guys come to mind here, but one that sticks out to me on this depth chart is Logan Ramper from Slippery Rock, right?
Yeah.
And reason being is he comes from a smaller program, right? He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's not supposed to be up here playing with the big guys, but he is now. He is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is going to be a guy that buys into that hard edge mentality. And he doesn't care if he's running a flag route, a post route, or he's stock blocking as a wide receiver on the outside. You're going to get 115% from this guy every single time because he has something to prove. I think Rich Rod is going to love this kid and going to give him the opportunity to really turn some heads this spring or this fall. Sorry.
And one thing about Logan Ramper, it's like the way you kind of just talked about him, you would think like, oh, they're just kind of giving this kid a chance. He's from Slippery Rock. Don't get it. This kid's a baller, man.
He can play.
Yeah. He's a baller. He's a really good receiver in a very crowded room. So yeah, and it's crowded for a reason, right, man? I think similar to what we talk about quarterbacks and one guy being able to separate, it's the same with the receiver room. Like I think Cam Vaughn is solidified, like he's going to have a big role in this offense. But outside of that, it's like I love Jaden Bray. You like Gallagher. There's a lot of guys coming into the offense in the wide receiver room. There's going to be some different combinations of receivers that we see on game day. Logan Ramper could definitely be a part of that. And the way that I kind of just explained this segment, I'm going to kind of twist it a little bit because I have two players. My two players I think that are going to benefit the most and catch some eyes in this fall camp are the fourth. Yes, you heard me right. The fourth and fifth string quarterbacks heading into this upcoming season. I want to talk about the young guys, Khalil Wilkins and Scotty Fox. I think, Noah, being at the, their class that they're in, young guys, there's not a lot of pressure, not a lot of eyes on them right now, but being able to almost be invisible and learn this scheme in practice is so beneficial for these upcoming years, 1, 2, 3 years down the line. Maybe it's Khalil Wilkins, maybe it's Scotty. One of these guys catches the system really good to the point where it's like Rich Rod in the back of my mind. Maybe it's, Nico playing next year or whoever's quarterback next year and they're gone. It's like, hey, we may bring in a quarterback, but like I have a really good feeling about these two young guys because of what I'm seeing in these practices, not only this year, but next year. And you get what I'm saying, the buildup, right? I think both those guys have some talent, and it's weird to kind of sit here and talk about fourth and fifth string quarterbacks, but we are still in the month of July. By the time people are watching this, it's August. But I'm not just saying that to say it. I think these guys actually, they're obviously very talented. They're power four quarterbacks. But I think unlike some of these quarterbacks that come in and, they just kind of sit around and then end up transferring to another school. Ryder Burton comes to my mind. He was here, really talented, not really talented, but just talented, younger quarterback, never got a chance, transferred to a smaller school. I think one of these guys could potentially stick and play down the line. That's kind of a hot take of mine. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it was a very good term you used, just like invisible. Like, when we're sitting here talking about it, Scotty Fox, Khalil Wilkins, they don't really cross my mind into quarterback one. But like they can set back and just kind of take that back seat. For one, get the mentality right. Kind of know what they need to do. Just setting in a film session as a quarterback with Rich Rodriguez, my God, how beneficial would that be for 200 high school quarterbacks, right? And these guys, Khalil's been here for 1 year, but Scotty Fox just coming in. How much better is he getting just by being in that environment? Seeing what a collegiate athlete looks like with the pressure of saying, hey, look, obviously I know he wants to go out there and play, but look, I know I don't have to play this year. I could take that back seat and just kind of, get my body right, get my mind right, realize what I have to do in preparation. I think that's a very good take. Just like being invisible is almost a good thing in that situation.
Yeah. Shout out Khalil Wilkins. I'm in the third year of my offline dynasty in NCAA. I've got him up to an 86 overall. Phenomenal player in the game, great speed. Scotty transferred on me, so I had to roll with somebody. But yeah, fun little take there. But yeah, man, I think a lot of good information in today's video. Fall camp, obviously here, daily kind of media stuff from Rich Rod, which is nice to hear. And we're getting more and more insight. And I think eventually we'll be able to put the pieces together like a puzzle and figure out what kind of Rich Rod sees as the winning combination of 22 guys to make Mountaineer football, make this season special, man. So, I said question of the day. It's more of a statement of the day. I'll kind of take it over because I know you didn't watch it. Did you watch the first one of Happy Gilmore?
I did watch the first one.
Okay.
I don't have Netflix. Okay. I don't have Netflix, so
I got you.
Unable to watch the second one.
I just have a quick statement. I'm not going to take long. If you're still watching, you're awesome. Thank you. A lot of people were shitting on this movie, and it's like this. I was like, this is awesome, right? I'm watching Happy Gilmore 2. It's Adam Sandler. He's a phenomenal actor, one of my favorites. It's like, I think so many people, especially the older generation, right? Like my dad and that kind of age group, they had such high expectations for this movie because of the first one that, of course, they're going to gravitate to the movie was stupid. The idea of, maxi golf. I'm spoiling it for you because you didn't even watch it, but it's basically kind of a play on live golf or things like that. Of course, you're going to find it stupid if you're holding it to the standard of the first Happy Gilmore, which is one of the greatest movies of all time. So more of a quick little rant than like a statement, but I thought the movie was awesome. I thought Scotty Scheffler's in there. He was awesome. A lot of, just so many faces. It is cool to see a bunch of faces that we know, both celebrities, athletes in a movie. Great stuff. Travis Kelce, I did not like to see in that movie. He needs to get his ass back on the practice field and worried about winning a Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. But hey, man, we appreciate you guys watching. We are officially going to get back at it. Like I said, we took a couple weeks off. We appreciate you kind of hanging around. If you were waiting on us, if not, I understand. But we appreciate you watching. More videos to come. Noah, send us off, my man. I've been talking too much this video.
Like, comment, subscribe.
There we are.
Like Gage said earlier in the video, just make sure you guys are subscribed for the raffle there. The 500 subscribers will raffle off some prizes. Maybe Gage will attach those to these videos if he can.
Of course, buddy.
I like always appreciate you guys watching. Comment any questions you have in the off season. Thanks, guys.
Great stuff, my man.